Welcome back. Billie Eilish is speaking out about how an addiction to pornography at a young age messed her up. The Grammy-winning singer spoke on the Howard Stern show, calling pornography a disgrace. Eilish, who turns 20 on Saturday, says she started watching porn at 11 years old and says at the time it made her feel cool. But now she says it's destroyed her brain and that she suffered nightmares from the often violent content. The singer says it gave her certain expectations when she entered a relationship. Well, a 2019 survey from the British Board of Film Classification saw that some children are watching pornography from a startlingly early age, in some cases as young as 7 years old. The report also looked into the effects of pornography on young people, with over 40% saying it made them less respectful of the opposite sex. Well, we're joined now by Dr. GARDERE, who is here to speak with us more about the psychology of addiction and the lasting effect pornography can have on young children. Good to have you with us.
It's great to be with you. Thank you, Linda.
I want to first get your reaction to Billie Eilish's comments. She said she started watching porn at the age of 11. What do you make of her admission that she was fixated on porn from such a young age, so much so that it caused her to have night terrors?
Well, I think it's startling that you would come out and actually be able to admit to that addiction. Of course, I ask the question, how did this happen to an 11-year-old? But her courage is absolutely amazing because it is pointing a spotlight as to a huge problem. We know research has shown that adults and especially young people are harmed by pornography. And certainly it can cause post traumatic stress disorder and other mental health issues. And so I understand when she says that in some ways she feels it destroyed her brain. She engaged in practices very young, at a very young age, that she shouldn't have done with regard to sexuality. So we know that it can really, really harm children, and it certainly did harm her, according to what she's saying, and I believe her.
And it seems that you raised an interesting point when you said, I wonder how this could possibly happen when she's 11 years old. But there was an interesting survey last year from the British Board of Film Classification that found that 60% of children aged 11 to 13 reported having seen pornography and said it was largely unintentional. What advice do you have for parents then to protect their children?
Well, it's the age old advice that we have been giving to make sure that there are parental controls on the devices that children watch. Certainly, they should know everything that they are looking at and make sure that when they're engaged in watching devices or playing with devices, that parents should be in the general area to hear what's going on. But the other thing is, parents need to be careful as to what it is that they're clicking onto. And then, if those kids get a hold of those devices, then there can be R rated advertising, certain types of images that now are able to be introduced into those devices. So if parents talk the talk, they have to walk the walk too.
And I was reading about Dr. Jocelyn Moss-Selby from the University of Calgary, who leads this global collaboration to address damage created by exposure to online pornography. She says millions of children are exposed to quite violent depictions of sex, sometimes before they've even had their first kiss. And then it can lead to a raft of issues like illegal acts and pedophilia. How do you start a conversation with a child about online pornography?
Well, certainly we have to let them know that it is something that they are not prepared for because it can really objectify bodies. It can cause children to get involved in unwanted acts, even as they get older, coercion into unwanted sexual acts, body shaming. Reduces intimacy. So, letting them know what all the dangers are, number one. Number two, what it is that they're watching is really, in many ways, a sexual script that provides models of behavior that are absolutely inaccurate and really does enforce sexual expectations that are completely unrealistic. And the other important thing that researchers are saying, Linda, is that we have to begin in the schools teaching children about sexual education, and as part of that sexual education,
Yeah.
better idea of what sexuality should be about, and as well keeps them away from pornography since they will know the dangers.
Yeah, you make a good point because I did want to ask about the education issue because Billie Eilish did say that when she was watching these violent sex videos, she thought she was learning about sex. She thought that was the norm. So it really does stem back to education as well, right?
Absolutely. And we find when they're watching pornographic images in themselves are dangerous, but when we're looking at the violent pornographic images, we find that boys who grow up now become more dominant and engage in degrading practices against girls. And the girls, when they grow up to become women, become involved in submissive practices that many times are unwanted.
And very quickly, what age should parents talk to their kids about sex?
As soon as a child is on an IT device and can begin to understand what it is that they're seeing, or can be vulnerable to having some of these images actually now populate their devices.
Dr. Jeff GARDERE, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We are watching the Global Brief. We'll be right back.